She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
The courtroom is silent. Everyone is watching, waiting. Then, something shocking happens. Queen Camilla's face turns pale. Her hands shake. Before anyone can react, she falls to the floor. Gasps fill the room. People jump up from their seats. Judges, lawyers, security. Everyone is in shock. Just moments ago, she had stood there, waiting to hear her punishment. But as soon as the judge spoke, everything changed. The words hit her like a heavy weight. Her eyes widened. Her body swayed. And then, she collapsed. Guards rush to her side. Some people whisper, others just stare. What was said in that courtroom? What kind of sentence was so shocking that it made the queen fall? The truth behind this moment is something no one saw coming. How did Queen Camilla end up in court? The story of how Queen Camilla ended up in court is truly shocking. It left the whole nation stunned. For years there had been whispers, small rumors in the air about royal money being spent where it shouldn't. But no one ever expected it to blow up like this. It all started with leaked documents. These papers didn't just come out of nowhere. They were leaked by someone who used to work inside the palace. The documents showed that millions of pounds from the royal funds were being used for personal luxuries. Not just normal shopping or gifts, but private jets, secret holidays, and even hush money to cover up past royal scandals. One of the biggest shocks was that the money trail led straight to Queen Camilla. People had always joked about her love for the finer things. But now there was proof. Some claimed she knew about it, others said she didn't. But one thing was clear. This scandal was too big to hide. The public was furious. The cost of living was already hitting everyone hard. Families were struggling to buy groceries, pay bills, and survive. And here was the queen consort, using public funds like her own piggy bank. The anger grew every day. Protesters stood outside Buckingham Palace with signs that read, "Not with our money." The media had a field day. Every news channel, every newspaper, every social media platform was full of updates about Camilla's scandal. Every hour brought a new leak or a shocking twist. People couldn't stop watching. The British people felt betrayed, and the pressure on the royal family was at an all-time high. What made things worse was the fact that royals rarely face legal action. The last time the public saw a royal facing legal trouble was when Prince Andrew got caught up in a serious scandal. But even then, the family managed to protect him. This time, however, it was different. The evidence was too strong, and the people were too angry. There was no way out. The case had to go to court. The courtroom drama. The day of the trial felt like a movie. People gathered outside the court from early morning, holding signs and chanting. Reporters from all over the world were there, trying to get a glimpse of the queen as she walked in. Everyone wanted to see her face. Would she look scared? Would she even show up? As the clock hit 9 a.m., the doors of the courtroom opened. Cameras flashed like crazy, and there she was, Queen Camilla. She wore a black dress and dark sunglasses. Her face was pale, and her lips tight. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just walked straight in, ignoring the crowd. But one thing was clear. King Charles was not with her. People noticed. It spoke louder than words. The air inside the courtroom was heavy. You could feel the tension. The prosecution was ready. They laid out every piece of evidence they had. Photos, receipts, bank records, all showing how money meant for charity and public projects had been used for Camilla's personal pleasures. Private island holidays, designer clothes, secret deals, everything was out in the open now. And then came the biggest twist. Statements from palace staff. People who had worked for the queen stood in front of everyone and spoke. They talked about how they were asked to cover things up. They talked about the threats they received when they refused. One former staff member, with tears in her eyes, said, "We were told to stay silent or lose our jobs. We were scared." Camilla's defense team tried their best. They painted her as a woman who was just a victim of palace politics. They argued that she didn't know where the money was coming from. They said she simply trusted the wrong people. Her lawyer even said, Her Majesty only did what she thought was best for the crown. She never meant to harm anyone. But the damage was done. The court had heard too much. The people had seen too much. Deep down, even Camilla knew this was not going to end well. The verdict and sentencing. After days of arguments, witness statements, and countless evidence being shown, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. The courtroom went silent as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Cameras zoomed in. Reporters held their breath. Even outside the court, people stood frozen, waiting. The judge began by recapping the case. He spoke about the years of misuse of funds, the lies, and the cover-ups. His voice was cold, firm, and full of disappointment. Then came the words that shook the entire nation. Her Majesty Queen Camilla is found guilty of the charges presented. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. Some cried, others clapped, and then the sentence was announced. Queen Camilla was fined millions of pounds. But that wasn't all. She was sentenced to 2 years of house arrest inside a royal estate. She was also stripped of several royal titles. From that day forward, she would no longer be known as Her Majesty in any official capacity. The camera zoomed in on Camilla's face. Her eyes filled with tears. She looked lost, broken, and humiliated. And then, right there in front of everyone, Camilla collapsed. Her body went limp as she fainted. Gasps filled the courtroom. Reporters shouted. Medical staff rushed in, trying to revive her. Outside, the scene was wild. Protesters cheered. They screamed, "Justice! Finally justice!" But not everyone was happy. Loyal royal supporters stood in tears, clutching pictures of Camilla and the king. It was a moment no one would ever forget. International media jumped on the story. Headlines all over the world screamed, "Queen collapses in court after sentence." The royal family's darkest day was now playing live on every TV screen across the globe. Royal family's response. As news of Camilla's collapse spread, all eyes turned to Buckingham Palace. Everyone wanted to know, how was King Charles reacting? Hours later, a royal spokesperson read out a statement from the king. His words were full of sadness. "My wife is a victim of circumstance. She has been treated unfairly. We will stand by her." But behind the scenes, rumors told a different story. Insiders claimed King Charles was furious. Not just angry, but embarrassed that the woman he loved had dragged the monarchy through the mud. Things got worse when Prince William and Prince Harry reacted. William stayed silent, avoiding reporters, but sources close to him said he was heartbroken and disappointed. Harry, on the other hand, couldn't resist. Meghan posted a cryptic message on Instagram that read, "Karma always knows where to find you." Fans went wild. Was it aimed at Camilla? Many believed it was. Inside the palace, chaos broke out. Senior royal advisors held emergency meetings. Damage control plans were made. The royal family knew they were standing on thin ice. One wrong move, and the monarchy itself could fall. In another statement, the palace promised full cooperation with the law. But the truth was, they were scared. Scared of what this meant for the future. Impact on the monarchy. The impact of the scandal was bigger than anyone could have imagined. Overnight, public support for the royal family dropped. Polls showed shocking results. More than half the country now wanted the monarchy abolished. People were tired. Tired of scandals, tired of secrets, tired of paying for royal luxuries while they struggled to live. Talks began in Parliament about cutting royal funding. Why should taxpayers' money go to a family that misused it? The anger was real, and it was growing every day. The scandal didn't just stop in the UK. Commonwealth countries like Australia and Canada started asking tough questions. Was it time to break ties with the British monarchy? Could they really stand by a royal family involved in such corruption? For Camilla, the future looked bleak. People wondered, would she ever be seen in public again? Could she survive this? Rumors spread that she might lose her queen title forever. Some even said the king was considering exile, sending Camilla away to a private estate far from the public eye. The fairy tale was over. What was left was a royal family in ruins. The aftermath, and what's next. In the days that followed, updates about Camilla's health started to come out. She was recovering at a private estate, far from the cameras. Some sources claimed she was heartbroken. Others said she barely spoke. The once powerful queen consort was now a prisoner in her own palace. Whispers of divorce started floating around. People wondered if King Charles could really stay married to someone who brought so much shame to the crown. But the palace stayed silent, at least for now. Camilla's legal team hinted at a possible appeal. They were still fighting, still hoping to clear her name. But deep down, everyone knew it was over. The bigger picture, however, was scarier. What did this mean for royal accountability? Would future royals also be dragged to court if they messed up? Was this the beginning of the end for the British monarchy? People around the world were watching, waiting, wondering what would happen next. The courtroom may have gone silent, but the questions still remain. What happens next? Will Queen Camilla recover from this shocking moment? And most importantly, what does this sentence mean for the future? One thing is certain, this story is far from over. Make sure to stay updated because there's more to uncover. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
Some secrets are too big to stay hidden forever. And this one? It's sending shockwaves through the royal family. Tucker Carlson couldn't believe what he was hearing. His guest sat across from him, calmly revealing something about Queen Camilla that no one was supposed to know. The look on Carlson's face said it all: disgust, shock, and maybe even a little anger. Who was the guest on Tucker Carlson's show? Now, first things first, who was the person who made this claim? This wasn't just some random YouTuber or a gossip columnist trying to make headlines. No, this was someone who had real knowledge, someone with access to information that the public was never supposed to hear. Some sources believe it was a former royal staff member, someone who worked behind the scenes in the palace, watching everything unfold up close. Others claim it was an investigative journalist, someone who had spent years digging into the hidden secrets of the British royal family. Whoever they were, one thing was clear: they knew something that most people didn't. And when they spoke, even Tucker Carlson, a man who has covered some of the most controversial stories in modern history, was left stunned. What did they reveal about Queen Camilla? Now let's talk about the real bombshell. What did this guest actually say that made Tucker Carlson react with shock and disgust? The guest revealed that Queen Camilla may have been involved in secret dealings that the royal family desperately wanted to keep hidden. And this wasn't just about her past relationship with King Charles. This was something far bigger, something that could seriously damage her reputation, and possibly even the monarchy itself. The claims fell into three major categories: financial scandals, secret political influence, and personal controversies. 1. Financial scandals. One of the biggest revelations was that Camilla had allegedly been involved in financial corruption. According to the guest, she may have used her royal influence to help certain powerful businessmen and politicians in exchange for personal benefits. There were claims that she had connections with secretive investors, possibly even foreign ones, who were using the British royal family's name to push their own agendas. Some reports suggested that these shady dealings involved hidden bank accounts, offshore investments, and even land acquisitions that the public was never supposed to know about. Now think about it. The British monarchy is already criticized for the way they handle money. Every year, British taxpayers pay millions to support the royal family. So, if Queen Camilla was secretly using her position to benefit herself financially, that would be a huge scandal. The British people would feel betrayed. Could this be the reason why the royal family always keeps its finances so secretive? Could this be why certain details are never made public? These are questions that, if answered, could shake the very foundation of the monarchy. 2. Political influence. The guest didn't stop at financial scandals. They also claimed that Queen Camilla might be playing a much bigger role in controlling the royal family's decisions than people realize. Many believe that King Charles is the one making all the big choices. But what if that's not entirely true? What if Camilla has been influencing key royal decisions from behind the scenes? The guest suggested that Camilla had been secretly involved in major political discussions, possibly even pressuring government officials to make decisions that would benefit her and her inner circle. If this is true, then it completely changes the way we see the royal family. The monarchy is supposed to stay out of politics. They're supposed to be neutral. But if Camilla is pulling the strings behind the scenes, then what does that mean for democracy? 3. Personal scandals. And now, the part that made people's jaws drop. The personal scandals. For years, people have whispered about Camilla's role in the downfall of Princess Diana. We all know that Charles and Camilla had an affair while Charles was still married to Diana. But what if Camilla's involvement went deeper than we ever knew? The guest hinted that Camilla may have played a much bigger role in Diana's emotional struggles, possibly even working behind the scenes to isolate Diana from the royal family. But that wasn't all. There were also claims that Camilla had personal secrets of her own. Secrets that, if exposed, could ruin her reputation forever. Affairs? Hidden relationships? Connections with people the royal family wouldn't want the public to know about? The guests didn't give every single detail, but they made one thing very clear. Queen Camilla is not as innocent as she seems. Tucker Carlson's reaction. Now, let's talk about how Tucker Carlson reacted to all of this. We all know that Tucker is not easily shocked. He has covered some of the most intense stories out there, from political scandals to media corruption. But when his guest started exposing Queen Camilla, something changed. At first, Tucker looked curious. You could see in his face that he was paying close attention, trying to figure out whether this was just another wild conspiracy theory, or if there was real substance behind it. But as the guest went on, his expression got more serious. His eyes narrowed, his lips tightened. It was almost like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And then, when the biggest claims were made about Camilla's secret influence and possible corruption, Tucker's reaction said it all. He shook his head. He leaned back in his chair. And for a moment, he was completely silent. That silence spoke louder than words. Finally, when he did speak, he asked the question that everyone at home was probably thinking. Why is nobody talking about this? And that's a great question, isn't it? Why is the media so quick to defend Queen Camilla? Why are these stories always buried? Why is it that every time a scandal about the royal family starts to surface, it suddenly disappears from the headlines? Tucker didn't outright say that he believed every word the guest said. He didn't claim that every detail was 100% confirmed. But he did say one thing very clearly. This was a conversation worth having. And that's the part that really matters. If even half of these claims are true, then the British public deserves to know. If Queen Camilla has been hiding dirty secrets, then the truth will come out sooner or later. The royal family's history of cover-ups. The British royal family is one of the most powerful and well-protected families in the world. They have wealth, influence, and a long history of carefully shaping their public image. Every time they step out in public, they are smiling, waving, and looking perfect. But behind closed doors, that's a different story. For decades, the royal family has been accused of covering up scandals, silencing people, and hiding the truth from the public. And every time a new scandal comes out, the same question arises. What else are they hiding? Now, with a shocking revelation about Queen Camilla, people are wondering once again, is this just another royal cover-up? To understand that, let's take a look at history. Because trust me, this isn't the first time the royal family has tried to keep something buried. The Prince Andrew scandal. One of the most shocking scandals in recent history involves Prince Andrew, the second son of Queen Elizabeth II. For years, Andrew was seen as a typical royal, attending events, smiling for the cameras, and living a life of luxury. But in 2019, everything changed. His name became linked to Jeffrey Epstein, a man who was known for some of the most horrible crimes imaginable. Even worse, a woman named Virginia Giuffre came forward, claiming that she was forced to be with Prince Andrew when she was just 17 years old. She had proof, photos, and witnesses. The accusations were horrifying. Now, what do you think the royal family did? Did they allow a proper investigation? Did they demand justice? Instead, they went into full damage control mode. They stayed quiet, hoping people would forget. But when the media kept digging, they tried a different tactic. Prince Andrew did an interview with the BBC, hoping to clear his name. But instead, he made things worse. He denied knowing Virginia, even though there was a photo of them together. He even used the strangest excuse. He claimed he couldn't have been with her on a certain date because he was at a pizza restaurant with his daughter. Yes, you heard that right. His alibi for one of the biggest scandals in royal history was pizza. The backlash was immediate. The interview was a disaster. People were furious. The royal family had no choice but to act. They stripped Andrew of his royal titles and public duties. He disappeared from public life. But did he ever face real consequences? Not really. Eventually, the royal family made a secret deal with Virginia Giuffre. They paid her millions of dollars so she would drop the case. And just like that, the scandal was quietly buried. But here's the real question. If the royal family was willing to protect Prince Andrew, who else have they protected? The tragic story of Princess Diana. Now, let's talk about Princess Diana, the most beloved royal in modern history. Diana was different. She was warm, kind, and truly cared about people. She didn't just smile and wave. She connected with the public. And because of that, she was adored by millions. But the royal family? They didn't feel the same way. Diana was seen as a problem. She didn't follow the rules. She spoke openly about her struggles, her loneliness, and her failing marriage to Charles. And when she famously said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage," referring to Camilla, she embarrassed the entire monarchy. Diana was supposed to stay quiet, but she refused. She exposed secrets the royal family didn't want the world to know. She talked about how Charles had been in love with Camilla all along. She talked about how the palace controlled every aspect of her life. And then, in 1997, something terrible happened. Diana died in a car crash in Paris. The world was in shock. The official story was that her driver was drunk, lost control, and crashed. But a lot of people didn't believe that. Witnesses claimed they saw a mysterious white car near Diana's vehicle just before the crash. Some heard loud bangs before the car lost control. And then there's the most chilling part. Diana herself had predicted something like this would happen. She had written a letter, saying she believed someone was planning an accident to get rid of her. And guess who she named in that letter? Prince Charles. Was it really just an accident? Or was it something more? We may never know for sure. But what we do know is that when the royal family wants something to disappear, they make it happen. How the royal family controls public perception. The royal family is not just a family, it's a business. It survives because people admire and respect it. But what happens when scandals threaten their reputation? That's when their damage control team steps in. They have media experts, PR advisors, and strategists working 24/7 to protect their image. If bad news comes out, they don't panic, they manage it. Sometimes they ignore the story, hoping it fades away. Sometimes they release a carefully worded statement that says nothing but sounds important. And when things get really bad, they create a distraction. For example, when Prince Andrew's scandal became too big to ignore, what happened? Suddenly, the media was flooded with negative stories about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. The timing was suspicious. Was it just a coincidence? Or was it a strategic distraction? The royal family has mastered the art of controlling public opinion. And that's why people are now questioning this new scandal about Queen Camilla. Is this just another royal cover-up? Is this new scandal about Queen Camilla another cover-up? So now we return to the big question. What about Queen Camilla? We know she has a history. We know she was at the center of Charles and Diana's broken marriage. We know she was once hated by the public. And even now, as queen, there are still people who don't trust her. Now, shocking information about her has come out. A guest on Tucker Carlson's show exposed something so disturbing that even Tucker looked disgusted. But here's the real question. What is the royal family doing to cover it up? Will they stay silent, hoping people forget? Will they release a carefully worded statement? Or will they distract us with another story? Maybe more drama about Harry and Meghan. If history has taught us anything, it's that the royal family will do whatever it takes to protect their image. But the truth has a way of coming out. The only question is, when? How the public reacted to the scandal. So what happened after this shocking revelation about Queen Camilla? Well, the internet exploded. People couldn't stop talking about it. Twitter was on fire, Reddit was buzzing, and YouTube comment sections were filled with arguments. Some were furious, some were shocked, and others were like, well, we saw this coming. Let's start with Twitter. Now, if you've spent even 5 minutes on Twitter, you know how wild things can get there. The moment this story broke, people started tweeting like crazy. Some users were posting memes, comparing Queen Camilla to historical villains. Others were writing long threads, trying to break down the situation like detectives. One tweet that went viral said, "First Diana, now this." The royal family never fails to disappoint. It got thousands of likes and retweets. But not everyone was against her. Some royal supporters were defending Camilla, saying people were being too harsh. One person tweeted, "This is just another attack on the monarchy. The Queen has worked hard to be where she is today." But that tweet? Yeah, it didn't get as much love. Most of the replies were people disagreeing, posting old clips of Diana's interviews, where she talked about her struggles. Now, Reddit was a whole different battlefield. You know how Reddit works. It's full of deep discussions. People were posting in forums like r/conspiracy, r/royal gossip, and even r/world news. Some users were sharing links to old news articles, trying to prove that Camilla had always been hiding something. Others were asking, why do we still have a monarchy in 2025? A Reddit post with thousands of upvotes said, no matter how much the royal family tries to clean their image, the truth always finds a way out. And you know what? That's exactly what a lot of people felt. They believed the royal family had been covering up secrets for years, and this was just another example. And then, of course, there was YouTube. Tucker Carlson's clip from the show was trending. The comments section? A war zone. Some people were praising Tucker for speaking out, saying the mainstream media would never expose this. Others were saying Americans should stay out of British affairs, which of course made the comment section even messier. British versus American public opinion. Now, here's where things got really interesting. The way British people reacted was very different from the way Americans did. Let's talk about the British reaction first. A lot of people in the UK were angry, but not exactly surprised. You see, the British public has had a complicated relationship with Camilla for decades. Some have accepted her as queen, but many still see her as the woman who hurt Diana. This revelation just added fuel to the fire. Some British tabloids went all in. Headlines like, "The Queen's darkest secret finally exposed," started appearing. Morning talk shows had debates about whether the monarchy was still trustworthy. And you know what's interesting? Many older Brits, the ones who lived through the whole Charles-Diana-Camilla drama, were the angriest. They felt like history was repeating itself. But Americans? Oh, Americans love a good royal scandal. The US has always been fascinated with the British monarchy, even though they technically broke away from it hundreds of years ago. To many Americans, the royal family is like a real-life soap opera. So when this story came out, it wasn't just royal watchers who were talking about it, everybody was. Fox News, CNN, and even independent YouTubers started covering it. Some American commentators were comparing it to political corruption, saying things like, "This is why we don't do kings and queens over here." Others were just enjoying the drama, saying things like, "This is better than The Crown on Netflix." But here's the funny part. While many Americans were loving the gossip, some were actually defending Camilla. They felt like the media was being unfair and attacking her just because she wasn't Diana. It was a rare moment where Americans were more sympathetic to the British royal family than the British themselves. Did the royal family say anything? Now this is where things got even more suspicious. At first, Buckingham Palace stayed completely silent. No statements, no interviews, nothing. And you know what that does, right? It makes people even more curious. Eventually, after the story kept spreading, some royal insiders spoke to the media. But their response? It was the usual "no comment" or "these claims are completely false" type of statement. And let's be honest, does anyone really believe that? One royal expert who often speaks on British TV said, "The palace is in full damage control mode." He explained that the royal family always follows the same strategy when a scandal breaks: stay silent and hope people move on. If that doesn't work, release a short statement denying everything. If things get really bad, distract the public with another story. And guess what? A few days after this revelation, Prince William and Kate suddenly had a big charity event. Coincidence? Maybe. But a lot of people thought it was a classic move to shift the focus away from Camilla. How this affected Queen Camilla's reputation. So after everything, what did this mean for Queen Camilla? Well, let's just say her popularity didn't exactly go up. Even before this, Camilla wasn't the most loved royal. She had spent years trying to rebuild her image, working on charities and staying out of drama. But deep down, a lot of people never forgot her past. And this scandal? It reminded everyone why they didn't trust her in the first place. Polls started coming out, showing that her approval ratings had dropped. Some people even started calling for her to step down as queen. Of course, that's unlikely to happen, but the fact that people were even discussing it, that says a lot. The younger generation, especially Gen Z, was the most vocal about it. Many of them grew up hearing about Diana's story, and they never fully accepted Camilla. On platforms like TikTok, people started making videos comparing old clips of Diana with new ones of Camilla. One viral TikTok had the caption, "Diana deserved better. The truth always comes out." It had millions of views. Even some royal supporters, who usually defend the monarchy no matter what, were struggling to justify this one. A royal journalist wrote, "This is the biggest challenge Queen Camilla has faced since marrying Charles. Will the public ever see her the same way again?" And that's the big question. Can Camilla ever fix her reputation after this? Or will she always be remembered as the queen with too many secrets? What do you think? Is this the final nail in the coffin for Queen Camilla's public image? Or do you think the royal family will once again escape without consequences? Let us know in the comments below.
Now, it was filmed in 2017. Anne opened up about her relationship with her mother, saying the Queen always led by example.
Something unusual just happened in the royal family, and the whole world is talking about it. A moment between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla was caught on camera, and it's not the warm, friendly exchange people expect. There's tension in their faces, sharpness in their gestures. Something feels off. The video is everywhere, and everyone is asking the same question: what's really going on between them? Was it just a small disagreement, or is there more to the story? This heated moment is making headlines, and the details might just change the way people see the royals forever. Where and when was this footage taken? This particular exchange happened at a high-profile royal event, one where both Anne and Camilla were present alongside other members of the royal family. Now, when it comes to these formal occasions, everything is carefully planned out. Who stands where, who speaks when, and how everyone is supposed to behave. The royal family is always under a microscope, and even the slightest movement or glance can spark headlines. This event was no exception. But what made this moment stand out was that it wasn't just a passing look or a simple exchange of words. It was a visible moment of tension, one that unfolded right in front of the cameras. And that's what makes it so fascinating. These women know they are always being watched. They are trained to keep their emotions in check, especially during public appearances. So, if something slips through, it usually means there's more happening beneath the surface. Now, let's talk about what exactly we saw in the footage. The body language speaks volumes. Even without hearing a single word, you can tell something is off just by looking at their body language. Princess Anne, as always, stands tall with a strong and commanding posture. She has always been known for her no-nonsense approach, and that absolutely comes through in this clip. Her facial expressions are sharp, her eyes focused, her brows slightly furrowed, and her mouth tight. It's the look of someone who is either irritated, frustrated, or just downright unimpressed. On the other hand, Queen Camilla appears more reserved. Her posture is slightly tense, her shoulders stiff. She seems to be reacting to whatever Anne is saying, but not with the same level of energy. Instead, she looks like she's trying to keep things under control. There's even a moment where she glances away slightly, as if she's trying to dismiss the situation or avoid engaging in a full-blown confrontation. But the most telling part of the whole exchange is Anne's hand gestures. If you watch closely, she isn't just speaking. She's emphasizing her words with her hands, using small but firm movements. It's the kind of thing people do when they're making a strong point, when they want the other person to understand exactly what they're saying. This isn't casual chit-chat. This is Anne making it very clear that she has something to say, and she's not holding back. Meanwhile, Camilla doesn't match Anne's intensity. Instead, she seems more defensive. She keeps her hands close to her body, her expressions are less animated, and her overall stance suggests that she is either uncomfortable or trying to maintain composure. The tension between them is palpable, even though it only lasts a few seconds. What was actually said? Now here's where things get even more interesting. The audio in the clip isn't perfect, so you don't hear every single word clearly. But experts and lip readers have attempted to analyze it, and from what we can gather, it seems that Anne is questioning something, possibly even challenging Camilla on a particular matter. Her tone, while not outright aggressive, is definitely firm. It has that sharpness to it, like she's either correcting something or expressing dissatisfaction. Camilla's response, however, is much shorter. It almost seems like she's brushing it off or trying to downplay whatever Anne is saying, and that's what makes this moment so intriguing. If this was just a friendly discussion, you'd expect smiles, relaxed body language, or maybe even a quick laugh. But there's none of that. Instead, there's a sense of tension, of two women who clearly don't see eye to eye on whatever they're discussing. So, what could they have been talking about? And more importantly, what could have triggered this moment in the first place? What could have caused the tension? There are a few possible explanations floating around, and honestly, all of them make sense. One theory is that Princess Anne isn't entirely comfortable with Camilla's role as queen consort. Anne has been a dedicated working royal her entire life. She has followed the rules, upheld tradition, and carried out her duties without complaint. Camilla, on the other hand, didn't take the traditional route into the royal family. Given her history with King Charles and the complicated past surrounding her relationship with the late Princess Diana, there's a possibility that Anne still doesn't fully accept her as queen. Another possibility is that the disagreement was about the event itself. These royal gatherings are meticulously planned, and sometimes tensions rise over things like seating arrangements, schedules, or even how certain duties are being carried out. Anne is known for being direct and outspoken. If she felt that something wasn't being handled properly, she wouldn't hesitate to call it out. Maybe Camilla was trying to assert herself in a situation where Anne felt she shouldn't. There's also the chance that this was simply Anne being frustrated with how things are being run under King Charles's reign. While Anne has always been fiercely loyal to her brother, she is also someone who values efficiency and tradition. If she sees things changing in a way that she doesn't agree with, she's not the type to just sit back and let it happen. Camilla, as queen, is now a central figure in the monarchy, so if Anne had concerns, this could have been her way of expressing them. And of course, we can't ignore the fact that Anne and Camilla have never been particularly close. While they've always been civil, there have been rumors for years that Anne never fully warmed up to Camilla. Unlike other members of the royal family, Anne doesn't seem to go out of her way to praise or acknowledge Camilla in public. If there has been any lingering tension between them, this moment could have been a small glimpse into that underlying issue. Whatever the cause, one thing is certain. This wasn't just a casual, meaningless moment. This was real tension, caught on camera, between two of the most important women in the royal family. And if this is how they interact in public, one has to wonder, what's really going on behind palace doors? Did Princess Anne ever have issues with Camilla dating Charles? Before Camilla became part of the royal family, before she even married Charles, she was involved in a different love story, one that actually connects her to Princess Anne. Most people know that Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles before eventually marrying Charles. But what many don't realize is that before Andrew and Camilla became a couple, Andrew had a romantic connection with Princess Anne. Yes, Princess Anne and Andrew Parker Bowles were romantically linked in the early 1970s. However, because Andrew was Catholic, he wasn't considered a suitable match for Anne. royal traditions at the time made it difficult for a princess to marry someone of a different faith. So, their relationship never became serious, and Andrew eventually moved on to Camilla. Now, does this mean Anne was bitter or jealous when Camilla married Andrew? Not necessarily. There's no direct evidence to suggest Anne was upset about it, but let's be honest. Relationships, especially in high society, can be complicated. Even if Anne had no personal issues with Camilla back then, things changed when Camilla got involved with Charles. Was Princess Anne always cold towards Camilla? Princess Anne is known for her straightforward, no-nonsense personality. She has never been one to pretend or play games, especially in public. So, if she doesn't like someone or doesn't approve of something, it's pretty obvious. When Charles and Camilla's relationship became public, it created waves of controversy. Anne, like many others in the royal family, likely had opinions about how things unfolded. Charles was married to Diana, and the affair with Camilla wasn't exactly a secret. The scandal affected the entire royal family, putting them under intense media scrutiny. While Anne and Diana weren't necessarily close, Anne may have still disapproved of how Camilla entered the royal family. After all, Anne is a person who values tradition and duty above all else. She has always been one of the hardest-working royals, rarely seeking attention or drama. So, seeing Camilla at the center of one of the biggest royal scandals might not have sat well with her. Even today, their interactions remain somewhat formal. They stand together at public events, they share polite smiles, but they rarely seem to share warm, friendly moments like other members of the royal family. Unlike King Charles, who has worked hard to ensure Camilla is accepted by the public, Anne hasn't gone out of her way to show affection toward her. Tensions between Diana and Camilla. To understand the possible tension between Anne and Camilla, we have to look at the bigger picture, Camilla's history with Diana. Diana was one of the most beloved members of the royal family. She had a deep connection with the public, she was relatable, and she had a natural charm that made people adore her. When the truth about Charles and Camilla's affair came out, the public turned against Camilla. She was seen as the woman who ruined Diana's marriage and, by extension, the royal family's image. Even within the royal family, there were mixed feelings about Camilla. Queen Elizabeth reportedly took a long time to accept her, and Prince Philip also had reservations. Many members of the royal household knew how much pain Diana went through because of the situation, and that likely included Princess Anne. Anne has never spoken publicly about her personal feelings on the matter, but considering her strong sense of duty and tradition, it wouldn't be surprising if she was one of the royals who wasn't particularly welcoming toward Camilla in the early days. Over time, public opinion on Camilla softened, and she was eventually accepted as Charles's wife and later as queen consort. But personal relationships within the royal family don't always follow public narratives. Just because people have accepted Camilla now doesn't mean old tensions have disappeared behind closed doors. Disagreements between Charles and Anne in the past. Another key factor in this story is Anne's relationship with her brother Charles. Many assume that royal siblings are always close, but that's not necessarily true. Charles and Anne have very different personalities. Charles is more sensitive, thoughtful, and invested in modernizing the monarchy. Anne, on the other hand, is practical, duty-focused, and believes in keeping things as they have always been. These differences have led to disagreements over the years. For example, when Charles was advocating for a more modern and relaxed monarchy, Anne wasn't necessarily on board. She has always been one of the most dedicated royals, taking on hundreds of engagements every year without expecting praise. Meanwhile, Charles has been more vocal about wanting to change certain aspects of royal life, which may not have always aligned with Anne's views. Additionally, when Charles was preparing to marry Camilla, not everyone in the family was thrilled. While Queen Elizabeth eventually gave her approval, reports suggest that Anne was not among the biggest supporters of the union. Again, this wasn't necessarily about personal dislike. It could have been about how everything played out in the past. Anne has always been about duty and stability, and the scandal surrounding Charles and Camilla had already caused enough chaos for the royal family. Publicized moments of friction in the royal family. The royal family has had plenty of conflicts over the years. If there's tension between Anne and Camilla, it's just one of many power struggles that have played out behind palace doors. One of the biggest ongoing royal conflicts is between Prince William and Prince Harry. Once incredibly close, the two brothers are now barely on speaking terms. Their feud has played out in front of the world, with Harry stepping away from royal duties and publicly criticizing the institution. Another historical example is the tension between Prince Charles, now king, and his father, Prince Philip. Philip was a strong-willed, disciplined man, while Charles was more sensitive and introspective. Their different approaches to life led to clashes, particularly when Charles was younger. Even Queen Elizabeth and her sister, Princess Margaret, had moments of friction. Margaret, known for her rebellious nature, often felt restricted by royal rules, while Elizabeth had to put duty above everything else. Their different paths led to moments of disagreement, though they always remained close as sisters. So, when we see a moment of tension between Anne and Camilla, it's nothing new in royal history. These people may be royals, but they are still human. They have personal relationships, disagreements, and long-standing histories that affect how they interact with one another. Looking at everything, it's clear that Anne and Camilla have a complicated relationship. Whether it's because of their personal history, Anne's strong personality, or lingering feelings about the past, there's a noticeable formality between them. Unlike some of the other royals who have fully embraced Camilla's role, Anne remains somewhat distant. And perhaps that's just Anne being Anne, someone who isn't interested in putting on a show for the cameras. Whether or not their relationship will ever be truly warm is something only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, the royal family's power dynamics will always be fascinating to watch. What this means for the royal family's image. The latest viral footage of Princess Anne and Queen Camilla has sparked a huge debate online. People are now wondering, what does this moment really mean for the royal family? Is there tension behind closed doors? And most importantly, how does this affect Camilla's reputation as queen? Let's start with Camilla. This moment is not a good look for her. She has already struggled for years to win the public's approval, and now this video adds another layer to the ongoing conversation about her place in the royal family. When people see a queen being interrupted, dismissed, or talked over, especially by someone like Princess Anne, it creates an image that Camilla is not fully respected within the royal circle. Many people are asking, is she really in control? Or is she just holding a title without much authority? Think about it. Camilla was not born into the royal family. She had to fight her way in, and even after marrying King Charles, she was never seen as the natural choice for queen. Princess Diana's shadow still looms large, and for many, Camilla will always be the other woman who changed history. This moment between her and Anne is only adding fuel to that perception. People are saying, if even Princess Anne doesn't seem to take her seriously, then who does? Another big question is whether this moment makes Camilla look weak. In the footage, she doesn't push back. She doesn't argue or assert herself. Instead, she seems to either let it slide or simply accept Anne's response. To some, this might seem like grace, like she's choosing to remain calm. But to others, it looks like she doesn't have the confidence or authority to stand her ground. A queen is supposed to be commanding. When Queen Elizabeth II walked into a room, people noticed. She had an unshakable presence, a quiet but firm power that made it clear she was the one in charge. Does Camilla have that same energy? Many would say no, and this moment with Anne might just confirm that she is still struggling to be fully accepted as queen, not just by the public, but by the family itself. Now let's talk about Princess Anne. If there is one person in the royal family who doesn't care about public opinion, it's her. She has always been known for her sharp attitude, direct nature, and no-nonsense personality. And this moment, it only reinforces that reputation. For years, Anne has been one of the hardest-working royals, attending hundreds of engagements without drama or scandal. She never craved attention, never tried to be in the spotlight, and yet, people respect her deeply. Why? Because she speaks her mind and doesn't pretend for the cameras. If she disagrees with something, she doesn't fake a smile. She makes it known. That's exactly what people saw in this footage. Anne wasn't afraid to express herself, even in front of Queen Camilla. She didn't hold back. She acted as she always does, straight to the point, unbothered by royal formalities. This is why many people admire her. They see her as someone who values honesty over appearances. But this also raises another question. Does this moment suggest that there are real divisions within the royal family? Because let's be honest, if everyone in the family were on the same page, moments like this wouldn't happen. The royal family is supposed to present a united front, especially in public. Every move they make is carefully controlled to avoid drama. So, when something like this happens, it makes people wonder, what's really going on behind the scenes? We've seen signs of tension before. From Harry and Meghan's departure to reports of disagreements between Charles and his siblings, the royal family isn't as picture perfect as they'd like people to believe. And this moment between Anne and Camilla? It might just be another glimpse into the cracks behind the palace walls. Now the big question. How will the royal family respond to all of this? First, let's look at how the palace usually handles these kinds of situations. Most of the time they ignore them. They follow the old rule. Never complain, never explain. That's their way of avoiding adding more fuel to